Lawsuits are being filed left and right in NASCAR. Rumors are beginning to swirl as the 2027 schedule begins to take shape. And can Dodge really join the Cup Series in 2027? Welcome back to another episode of Talkin NASCAR. I'm your host, Andrew. Hope you're all having a great day. Today, we got a lot of news to cover from the past couple of days in NASCAR. The news never sleeps in NASCAR, and it was a particularly busy week in the NASCAR world for this one. As we enter the in-season challenge, Sonoma coming up tomorrow. The O'Reilly cars are out on track today. Lots of action from this past week, and that is still yet to be settled out on track for us to cover here today. But up first, we have to talk about Legacy Motor Club, as they have added Guy Fieri, I believe I'm saying that last name correctly, as a new strategic owner of Legacy Motor Club. Jimmy Johnson did say a couple months ago that Legacy Motor Club, or he specifically, had lined up, I believe, close to 30 new owners, like star owners, like well-known, not like superstar, but well-known, famous owners, to join the team as strategic owners. He brought in Darius Rucker earlier this year. It was announced at Circuit of the Americas. Now Guy Fieri, again, I could be butchering that last name, but he's the latest addition to that list. And again, this is something that, we've seen as of late from other NASCAR teams. We've seen other NASCAR teams, being bought up or have stakes being held by other corporations. Like Joe Gibbs Racing has a bit of an ownership as a part of it, sold to the Harris Blitzer Group. I believe the same group that owns the Washington Commanders. The Roush Fenway Keselowski team is, of course, owned by the Fenway Group and have been for quite a while now. We just learned in the lawsuit, the antitrust case between 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports and NASCAR, that Richard Childress Racing is actually still owned by a large firm in New York City, and it's mostly owned by that firm and not by Richard Childress anymore. And when you look around the industry, very few teams now are owned by one single entity or one single person. Like, the only ones that I can think of off the top of my head are Hendrick Motorsports and Team Penske. But I know it's not like it's Roger Penske's like own branding company. It's not Roger himself. I guess it is Roger himself that does own Team Penske. I don't know if Matt Calling solely owns Calling Racing. I think he might. I'm not quite sure if he does, but I know Calling. I mean, it's in the name, but I'm not quite sure if Matt Calling is the sole owner of Calling Racing. I have no idea what Rick Ware Racing's ownership looks like now with that entire lawsuit with Jimmy Johnson and Legacy Motor Club against Rick Ware Racing and Rick Ware himself. I don't know if Rick Ware still owns the team or if PJ Pusher, the former owner of Spire, now solely owns Rick Ware Racing. I'm not quite sure about that anymore. But yeah, not many teams in NASCAR are owned by one sole owner anymore. It's just not how the business has been trending towards. It's been trending towards multi-owners, many owners, and usually it's big corporations that invest in the team. And Legacy Motor Club is in that conversation as well. Like, they don't have one single owner anymore. It used to be just Richard Petty who owned that team. Then Jimmy Johnson Maury Gallagher bought into the team to join Richard Petty and created Petty GMS Racing. And then Jimmy Johnson bought a stake in the team, became Legacy Motor Club. Maury Gallagher sold his stake, and Knighthead Capital came in. And now we have Darius Rucker and Guy Fieri, along with, I think, 26 other new superstar and well-known owners will be joining the team very, very soon. So I think for me, it goes without saying that I am thoroughly interested to see who Legacy Motor Club brings in to be another superstar owner. Next up, NASCAR has made a change to the short track front and rear bumper rules package in that there will be no longer energy absorbing foam in either bumpers. NASCAR has also removed a couple pieces from the front bumper, no longer making it a triangle design to keep the bumper in shape, and this is hopefully going to make the impacts felt when a car makes contact on short tracks with the front and rear bumpers will be a little bit more softer and not as firm and rough and rigid. And that's one of the things that has been well known about this new next gen car, this seventh generation car, ever since its implementation back in 2022, is that the front and rear bumpers did not sustain very much damage. They were very firm and very solid. It took a lot for them to sustain damage. And obviously, that's ultimately what ended Kurt Busch's career with his crash at Pocono. And NASCAR has made moves to change that. They've weakened the rear bumper and the front bumper, allowed them to be crushable a little bit more. But still, on short tracks, those bump and run moves, like cars getting down into turn one at Martinsville, giving the car in front of them a little bit of a bump, it moves the car out of the way. It pushes them out of the way really, really well, while the car that does the pushing and the bumping doesn't receive any damage on the front of the car. And now it has really just made short track racing a bunch of who can bump who out of the way and move past them. There's no real racing element to it anymore. Drivers are not using as much skill to pass. It's really just bump you out of the way and I'll go on with my day. It's not let me roll the bottom at Martinsville really well and be able to make the corner better than this guy and run faster lap times that way instead of I'll just run down really hard into the turn and bump the guy out of the way. And I mean, NASCAR's done so much to improve the next gen short track performance in recent years with new tire compounds, new aero packages, new horsepower packages this year. Now they're changing the one thing that they haven't touched really is the actual next gen car body with the front and rear bumpers. And we are going to get to see this change very, very soon at North Wilkesboro. In a couple weeks, we're going to see this at Richmond, later in August, then Bristol in September, and then Martinsville all the way in November. So we'll have to see how this works out because there's not very many short tracks that are, like the Martinsvilles or Bristols or North Wilkesboros out there. So we won't get very many opportunities to see this, but we'll see how this works. And I'm very excited to see what they'll do at Martinsville because Martinsville, in my opinion, has been the track where I've noticed the most use of the bumper to knock drivers out of the way, at least in my opinion and when I'm watching races. At North Wilkesboro, I'm not really seeing it as much because I think it's a little bit of it's a bigger road course, it's a little bit wider than Martinsville. So you're going to see drivers miss the corner completely and just run the top groove or the middle groove, while other drivers are able to run the middle or the bottom more effectively. Richmond and Bristol, it's the same thing. But I will say this: last year we did see Christopher Bell and Brad Keselowski in that battle at Bristol, in that high tire wear night race. That Keselowski closed in and gave Bell a really big shot instead of moving Bell out of the way. Bell just got a huge bump forward and put him out of reach of Keselowski. So that was like a little bit of a frustrating thing. Like Keselowski should have been able to move Bell in some capacity or make Bell get some damage, you would think. And what ended up happening is that neither car got damaged and Bell drove off without much contested, pressure from Keselowski. So I do like this move by NASCAR, and I hope that this does work because NASCAR has done a lot, and so is Goodyear and everyone else in, charge of making these changes. I think they've done a good job at, analyzing these problems and making them better. So I am really hoping that this does work. Next up, we are hearing some rumors that Dodge could jump into the NASCAR Cup Series by next year in 2027 in time for the Daytona 500. As Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic reported on X that Dodge could make their return to the Cup Series in 2027 after some developments and breakthroughs in the engine department for Dodge and getting their engine approved by NASCAR since Dodge had to develop their own engine to use for the upcoming Cup Series season if they were going to do that at all. And as well, apparently some next gen versions of the Dodge Challenger has apparently already undergone initial wind tunnel testing. So Dodge has been making some very big gains towards making their way into the Cup Series next season. It does sound like that they haven't gotten the Challenger body approved yet, but that is probably one of the bigger hurdles that they have to clear. But it sounds like they've already cleared the engine production, which is huge, and that's the reason why Dodge initially was forced out of the sport and banned because they had an illegal engine back in like the mid to early 2000s and into the 2010s. And everyone, and myself included, thought that Dodge jumping up into the Cup Series next season, it was just a very outlandish, I would say, very risky, very bold idea to have because it takes so long to get the body, the engine, and everything else approved by NASCAR so you can even race and even undergo wind tunnel testing, and then you can further get approved by NASCAR and then maybe start even getting through the process of being added as a fourth manufacturer. I mean, Tim Kuniskis, the CEO of Ram and Dodge, said that everyone was calling them crazy for even having a goal of trying to make it up to the Cup Series by next season. But now it does seem like a lot of the stones are falling into place for Dodge to make the return to the NASCAR Cup Series. They already have a team, seems like it's selected to be their flagship team heading into next year with Calling Racing. I know this year they are running Chevrolets in the Cup Series, but they are getting no support whatsoever from Chevrolet in terms of data and sim testing and whatever. They're only getting the bodies and the engines that they need to run the races. And to their credit, AJ Allmendinger has been very, very solid this year, despite running zombie Chevrolets this year, as they are currently running Ram trucks in the Truck Series as Ram's flagship team. And since then, Chevrolet has cut their ties with Ram, since it is pretty clear now Ram and Calling Racing are going to be together moving forward at some point in the very near future. So even though there are still many hurdles for Dodge to clear in order to join the Cup Series next season, it does seem like, though, that Dodge is very close to making a breakthrough and being ready to join the NASCAR Cup Series in 2027. I also do wonder what a potential O'Reilly Series competition standpoint would be. I don't know if Dodge is even thinking about that at this current moment. I wonder if the Cup Series is their main goal right now, and the O'Reilly Series is just not really that big of a priority. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, but I imagine as well, like I imagine that Cup Series is the top priority. O'Reilly will be like a 2028 thing. Maybe they are also working on the O'Reilly Series stuff with the Cup Series, because it is technically kind of a similar car structure. It's a stock car and not a stock truck. So that could be a thing potentially that is happening. But I do imagine that's a thing when that's a bridge that will cross when we get there eventually. Now moving on, we have another new lawsuit in NASCAR. Yay! In addition to the Chris Gabehart versus Joe Gibbs Racing lawsuit, which we do have a very big update on that we'll get to in just a moment. And we're basically fresh off the heels of the antitrust case between NASCAR and Front Row in 2311 Racing. So that is, very fresh in my mind. But we have another new one. It's from Sydney Hallenbeek on X. She tweeted, I guess, that AM Racing has filed a lawsuit against Sigma Performance Services seeking the return of several unique car chassis and for Sigma to stop using AM Racing's intellectual property. Now, some quick little background here. Back to this past offseason, it was announced that AM Racing would be selling their chassis and all of their assets to Sigma Performance Services Racing, which is a current NASCAR ARCA Menard Series team. They are currently full-time in that series at this current moment. And Sigma Performance Services was planning to jump up to the O'Reilly Series and play and take AM Racing spots and run Fords and be Ford's potential new flagship team in the series. However, near the Daytona 500 or midway through the offseason, I would say about January, that deal fell through and it was announced that AM Racing and the deal could not be completed between Sigma Performance Services and AM Racing, and AM Racing would still operate heading into this season. And only a couple days before the Daytona 500 and the Daytona weekend and the O'Reilly Series race, AM Racing found their driver after Harrison Burton left the team for Sam Hunt Racing in the 24 team. They announced they found Nick Sanchez to be their full-time driver for this season, but ultimately only after a few races this season, AM Racing had to close up shop due to lack of funding for the team, and they were not apparently getting enough support from Ford. Nick Sanchez had to go find another ride. He found his ride with Peterson Racing. And AM Racing wasn't the first team to fall out of the Ford camp. Hettinger Racing, the other Ford team that jumped up to the O'Reilly Series, another ARCA Menard Series team, and they also ran some truck starts last year with Brett Moffitt, I think. They closed up shop. Their number 5 card, they closed up shop. shortly after the season began, and AM Racing was quick to follow. We also saw some other O'Reilly Series teams close up shop as well, and that ultimately left Ford without a team or any cars, any full-time cars to be specific, in the series. We've seen a couple cars, like one of the RSS cars, I think the 38, I think for Logan Bearden, I believe, or JJ Yeley, when it's swapping between Chevrolet and Ford as of right now. So that's really the only Ford car in the series, but it's not even a full-time car. That just shows how bad things have gotten for Ford in the O'Reilly series. And even at the time when it was announced that the sale didn't go through, I was wondering what was the problem and why couldn't the sale go through? Was there just not enough time? And it sounded like that AM Racing and Sigma Performance Services was like, we're trying to, get through this season, and then they would try to sell again in the next off season, or this coming one, and then they would get the sale fully completed, hopefully, and Sigma Performance Services would go full-time racing next year. That's what I got from their announcement that the sale didn't go through, but it doesn't sound like that's gonna go through now. Sounds like that there is just some more legal stuff going on behind the scenes. Now, when I took a first glance at this, I thought that maybe this lawsuit could be resolved, rather quickly. Like, it's just a return of car chassis whenever, since the sale didn't go through. But now that I'm seeing that Sigma is using AM Racing's intellectual property, yeah, that might take a little bit longer, I'm thinking. And again, I'm not a legal expert, so I don't know, you know, I don't have any examples in my mind of how long this could take. So yeah, and based on how long the antitrust case went on, how long this lawsuit between Gabe Hart and JGR is going, this could go, yeah, I don't know how long this could go. This could go for 5 years and not be resolved. Yeah, I don't know. This is kind of, I don't know. This is really weird. Kind of out of the blue. I didn't see this coming. I'm hoping it gets resolved rather quickly. I think it will. Out of the three lawsuits that have happened and are happening right now, this one will probably be the one that's resolved, rather quickly. Maybe won't be, Legacy Motor Club and Rick Ware Racing's, settlement, because that one was resolved even before they went to trial. So I don't know if that's gonna happen here with this one. It's still fairly early on. I guess it just got filed, so we'll have to wait and see on that front. But yeah, AM Racing is suing Sigma Performance Services, so we'll have to wait and see where this goes. Now, I did just mention that there was a update on the Chris Gabehart versus Joe Gibbs Racing lawsuit. Well, Spire Motorsports and Chris Gabehart have filed countersuits against Joe Gibbs Racing, and some pretty interesting details included with this countersuit that I do want to read off. So the first one is that Chris Gabehart claimed that Heather Gibbs, co-owner of Joe Gibbs Racing and Ty Gibbs' mother, wrote a $500,000 check so that Chris Gabehart with crew chief Ty Gibbs last year during Ty Gibbs' push to the playoffs. Spire also alleges that Joe Gibbs Racing owes Spire Motorsports money, or an employee for Spire car chief Cheddar Smith to go to JGR, and right now Joe Gibbs Racing has not followed through on that. Apparently, Spire Motorsports wanted crew chief Tyler Allen, current crew chief of Ty Gibbs, and JGR said no on that. Now, on that last point, Cheddar Smith going to Joe Gibbs Racing, he left the Spire Motorsports number 7 team last year from Justin Haley's team. He was poached, essentially, by Joe Gibbs Racing to come work for them. And shortly after that, Rodney Childers ended up leaving the number 7 team for Justin Haley. Now, Haley is out of that ride. So that was an interesting development there. But now we're hearing that there was some sort of agreement between Spire and Joe Gibbs Racing that Joe Gibbs Racing would receive Cheddar Smith, but they would have to pay back Spire Motorsports in some way. It's essentially going to be a trade, so that's interesting. You don't see many of those in NASCAR. You don't see trades with employees very much. Mostly it's between Alliance teammates or Alliance teams and others as well. You see that as well. Like, I think pit crew members have been swapped. Like, Hendrick has swapped pit crew members with Spire before, and with Hayek too as well. And we do have a specific quote on what the agreement was. It says, quote, materially breached the implied trade contract by failing to either A, release a JGR employee selected by Spire from contractual restrictions so that Spire could employ that person, or B, pay Spire $100,000 within a reasonable time, which sounds like hasn't happened. and this does sound a little bit familiar to what the initial lawsuit was from Joe Gibbs Racing. They initially filed it only against Chris Gabehart, but then later uh, roped Spire Motorsports into this, alleging that there was use of trade secrets in that agreement to bring Chris Gabehart over from Joe Gibbs Racing. So that's probably another like little, origin of all of this as well. And we're getting some more details from this. So yeah, this is the latest update in what has been a couple other updates as of the last couple weeks. Joe Gibbs Racing filed a complaint in this lawsuit saying that Chris Gabehart was violating the restraining order, that he was not to act in his current role of being a competition director for Spire Motorsports on the NASCAR side of things. But apparently they saw him at the racetracks, like at Bristol. I'm pretty sure they saw him. They took photos of it and said that he was violating the restraining order. And as he's been doing that for the last couple races, it's more than a one-time thing. So it's been a little messy as of late, and I think this is the latest little uh, detail and wrinkle thrown into that conversation. So overall, with what all this means, in my opinion, is that it's still very early in the case. We haven't even gotten anywhere close to many rulings. I don't think many of the facts have come out about this yet. Like, I think this is really the true first update where we get some actual facts about this trade and what trade secrets Spire was using, and JGR made the first lawsuit. So this is really like the first big discovery stage finding in the form of another lawsuit, which I don't know how often that comes up in a case like this. So, yeah, regardless, probably this is the first big update that we have with Spire's countersuit against Joe Gibbs Racing. So, yeah, I am very uh intrigued, I guess now. This is like again the first like big bombshell thing that we've seen since the initial lawsuit and like the temporary restraining order, all that. So, yeah, again, it's early in the trial, in the case. A trial has been scheduled, I believe, but it's not gonna be for a while, so this is not gonna be resolved, at least for a long time, if nothing makes any, like, progress, if none of the 2 sides, try to make amends and come to an agreement. We're gonna be stuck like this for a little while, most likely. But rest assured that I will be staying tuned for more updates, and if there's any big ones that are, worth your time, I will make sure to report on them and give you my 2 cents on whatever has come out. But now to wrap up this episode, let's talk about the upcoming 2027 NASCAR Cup Series schedule. And there's been a lot of talk and chatter about which tracks could return and what tracks may be potentially being added back onto the schedule. And I say back because there was a lot of tracks that were on the schedule last year that may return. So speaking about tracks that will maybe return to the track next year or schedule next year, the first one is Naval Base Coronado, and this one immediately started after that phenomenal finish that we saw last week with Corey Heim picking up that victory, and how really cool that race was, how amazing it was, how many viewers it got, how great the racing was. I mean, Ben Kennedy said that NASCAR is working to possibly make this a thing again next year. Made the drivers supported bringing this track back onto the schedule next year. And I mean, I'm in favor of bringing the track back onto the schedule in future ones. I don't know about necessarily the 2027 schedule, because I feel like, uh, I think it should be, taken delicately. Again, it's an active naval base. It's not something that we have complete and entire control over. I'm thinking that, Naval Base Coronado being on the schedule is cool. And I think it was really cool that it was on the schedule for America's 250th birthday and its celebration and all of that. I I'm not sure about bringing it on again. I think I think this is something that, can be part of a rotating set of road courses, because I think there's a lot of road courses in the United States and even in Mexico as well. We'll get to that in a second, that all can be a part of a rotation that I would really like to see on the schedule. I think Naval Base Coronado is one where you don't do like every year or every other year. I feel like that's one you do every 3 years, maybe every 4 years, something like that. Make it part of a rotation, like a little bit of a longer rotation, because again, it's cool, but it's an active military base, and I yeah, I feel like we gotta be mindful of that, and I would rather be more respectful to the Navy than to abuse that privilege, if you know what I mean. But if they're willing to, be willing to let us use that area every other year, I would be, happy with that. Make it part of the rotation. I think that would be really, really cool. The next street race that could be potentially coming back to the schedule is the Chicago Street Race. Jordan Bianchi reported a little while back that the Chicago Street Race and NASCAR could be making a return sooner rather than later, and it's closer to reality than ever, was Bianchi's exact quote. And you know what? I don't hate this. I would much rather have the Chicago Street Race back on the schedule next year than San Diego, not for the fact that the racing was better at Chicago, but again, I don't want to if I was in NASCAR's position, I would, try to be mindful and say that, hey, if we'd be open to it, San Diego and Naval Base Coronado, if you want us to come back and you're willing to let us come back, we would do it. We will take that offer. But if we're being the ones that have to go out and say, "Hey, can we use your base to put on a race next year?" Can we? Like if we were having to do that instead of, them saying like, "Hey, if you want to use our base again in so and so years, you can do that." I would much rather have the latter option happen and latter outcome be than us, approaching them for it. That's what I would say. But for the Chicago Street Race, again, it's something that, doesn't put a lot of stress on many others people. Like it's just one weekend out of the year. It takes a little while to set up, I get that, but definitely more convenient for everybody. It's not putting a strain on the military at all. Like I don't know how much strain it was on the military, but it's not on the naval base. It's on the streets of Chicago. It's in a major city, a major market. It's a good race to have. The only question is the weather, and the weather usually in June, for the Midwest is, well, surprisingly this year was really, really wet. It was really weird. It was cooler up here. It was warmer in some spots. There'd be random hot and cold spots throughout the Midwest. Ton of rain, and that's why I'm glad. Like, hey, the glad thing the Chicago weekend was pushed back because now you don't have to hit all that rain, but you're gonna get blistering heat in a couple weeks here, which it's gonna be in the 90s in Wisconsin, which sucks. So, yeah, I'm not happy about that, but I much rather have, hot weather than rain all the time, which is what we had for the 4th of July weekends this past couple weeks, even though it might rain on the 4th of July again this year, which really, really sucks. I'm hoping it doesn't rain. Anyways, I am, open to the Chicago Street Race being back on here. Again, I would like the road courses that are mentioned on here, like San Diego, Chicago, the street race, not Naval Base Coronado, Mexico City. I would like those to be in a rotation of road courses. I could even throw Road America in there as well. I really want NASCAR to come back to Road America because it's just a beautiful place out there in Elkhart Lake. It's awesome. I've been there. It's I can vouch for it, and I may be biased because I live in Wisconsin and it's the one of the only tracks closest to me that NASCAR at least has a shot of going back to, but it is really beautiful. It is a road course again, and the next gen car isn't great on road courses, but with how road racing has improved since 2022 when they were last out there, I think it would be really, really cool. I really do. It's a beautiful area. It's really, really awesome. So I would throw Road America into that situation. I would throw Montreal maybe in there, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, because they got a new owner and they have some big plans planned for the track. So throw them in the hat as well. Maybe Mid Ohio as well. That's another road course that, not very many races get out there in that Midwestern area. I did also mention Mexico City as one of the potential tracks added to the schedule next year. NASCAR raced at them last year, in Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. The only reason they didn't return this year is due to potential scheduling conflicts with FIFA. That would be this time of year, and FIFA's been crazy throughout the entire North American continent. It's been really, really crazy in a lot of the big cities. So that is also a potential candidate, even though it has been reported and rumored that that one is a little bit more out there and it's not becoming as likely as the days go on. And it does sound more likely that the Chicago Street Race or Naval Base Coronado would be back on the schedule. But I would like to see NASCAR return to Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez sooner rather than later because last year having all that rain and all the weather that impacted that event on the Cup Series side of things was a little disappointing. So I would really like if NASCAR could return to that event and that stadium, and it'd be really good weather. It'd be sunny, like just dry. I'd much rather have that out of anything. I think sunny and like perfect weather is a little bit out there, but just dry weather would be awesome. So again, throw all these road courses in a rotation. The Charlotte Roval could even be in that conversation if you really want, even though that one's probably last on the list. Mexico City, Chicago Street Race. You could throw San Diego, Naval Base Coronado, Road America, again, Mid Ohio, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Montreal. Throw all of those in a rotation. Keep them, like, put one or two of them on every year or so. Keep them rotated in and out. The street courses probably will be the ones that will draw in the most people and like be the biggest markets because again, Road America is not near a big market, Mid Ohio isn't. So that could be a thing potentially, but yeah, throw all those road courses in a rotation. I think that you get a really good, just a good balance of road courses, and you're not putting a strain on any one city every single year. And it's going to be exciting when you have those races return to the schedule. And the last other scheduled rumor change for next year is that the Clash may be returning to Daytona for Speed Weeks, which would be awesome because that's how it used to be back like maybe a little bit over a decade ago before not even a decade ago, like not too long ago, like maybe 2018, 2017, maybe up through 2019, 2020, 2021. They had the Clash on the road course, which was very interesting. But before and then after that, they moved to the LA Memorial Coliseum, which was a pretty cool event. Then you moved to North Wilkesboro for it to be uh, the excuse me, the Clash for not North Wilkesboro, excuse me, Bowman Gray, which Bowman Gray was kind of chaotic this last year with the weather as well. So that could be very interesting, or that was interesting. But if you go back to Daytona, you're guaranteed pretty good weather in February, or excuse me, late January. So you get some really cool racing going on there, and you can actually make it speed weeks and not speed week with the Clash, and then qualifying the O'Reilly race, the truck race, then the Daytona 500. That would be really cool as well. Another rumor is that Charlotte could be getting the All Star race back again next year, which would be pretty cool as well. You'd be going back to Charlotte in back to back weeks for the All Star race and the Coca Cola 600. And that's something I'm in favor of, mostly because it means that Dover wouldn't be the All-Star race. I think Dover is probably the worst site for an All-Star race out of all of them. I'd much rather have it be under the lights, be a night race. It would be really, really cool. Simplify the format into an All-Star Open. You have the All-Star race. You bring a lot of fans back into it. So, from what I'm at least saying in here, what I'm hearing, a lot of these schedule changes sound really, really exciting. I am really excited about this. We already heard about Watkins Glen moving back into the playoffs. We have a playoff race again, or excuse me, not a chase race. Yeah, it's going to take a little while for me to shake off the playoffs, and it's going to be the chase. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. It's gonna be a little bit. If you're a well-versed NASCAR fan, you're cringing at the sound of playoffs already when I'm saying it, and you're so happy that Chase is back, and I am too. I am too. I'm right with you on that one. So, yeah, Watkins Glen's already back there. We know Daytona's gonna be in there. Coca-Cola 600. Homestead, I think, is gonna be the championship site again. It sounds like could change. We don't know. A lot of it's still up in the air. Again, the schedule usually gets released late August around that time. It was a little bit later this past year, I believe. I don't think we got the full schedule until like October or September. So it definitely was a little bit of a longer of a wait. So hopefully it'll be on time this year in like late August. That would be really, really cool. So, anyways, these schedule rumors all sound very encouraging to me. I'm all in favor of having some of these tracks come back. I'd really like it if, a rotation of the road courses, Charlotte and Daytona being the Clash and All Star race site. Sounds really, really good. I voiced my support for some of these, smaller market road courses to return, like Road America, Mid Ohio, Montreal. Well, not Montreal's not it's not a small market, but yeah, it's a track that NASCAR hasn't been to in a while. Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. I would love to see that. I will vouch once again for the Milwaukee Mile. It's my home track. It's very, very close to where I live. I live about 30 minutes from it. It's in the Wisconsin State Fair Park. I will admit that the Milwaukee Mile does probably not suit a Cup Series race. I would much rather, see a truck race on an O'Reilly race there, especially truck racing because it fits the truck series, mindset with all the short tracks. It's being the it being the lower NASCAR series, the national series, it's almost a regional series at this point. So I'd really like if they get some short tracks on there. So again, a lot of work would have to go into the Milwaukee Mile for it to even consider hosting a Cup Series race. Because yeah, I don't think they could fit many series into that one little area. There's not much in the infield at the Milwaukee Mile. There's a lot around the Milwaukee Mile in the State Fair Park. Imagine if you have the State Fair going on and you open up all that, and then you have the Cup Series or the NASCAR at all just racing out there. That'd be a really cool weekend for all of us Wisconsinites in the southeastern Wisconsin area. So let me know down in the comments what track do you want to see, or tracks do you want to see on the 2027 NASCAR Cup Series schedule. I'm hoping for a really good schedule this year. It sounds like a lot of road courses being considered. Just NASCAR, please don't overdo it on the road courses. But that is going to do it for this episode, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Talkin NASCAR. If you haven't already, follow the show so you never miss another episode. And if you haven't checked it out already, go check out Talking Sports with Miles and Andrew. I'll have links to the Spotify and YouTube channel down in the description below. So thank you so much for listening. I'm Andrew Volkman, and I will see you in the next episode.